So this is the third part of our discussion on the group by clause, and in this session we are going to move a bit more forward on our understanding of the group by clause. But beforehand, if I want you to closely notice that I have modified our paycheck data set, and now I also include a designation variable in this, just for ease of understanding our examples. So the next thing, I'm going to move on to our group by clause as always, and I have designed up a query which selects a designation as one of the variables in our query's result, and I have also grouped by designation. But since I've used group by, I need to use an aggregate function also. So for an aggregate function from from the count function in our previous sessions, I have moved on to the sum function, and this time I want the sum of salaries across different designations. So let's go through this one more time to just to be sure we got this. So we are grouping the whole thing by designations. So now to replicate what does that mean by in the dataset perspective is that let's sort this by A to Z. So again, you would notice that there are three rows which have analyst as the designation, four rows which have manager as a designation, three for senior analyst, and one for team lead. So effectively, when I would run this query, first at the back end, you can expect that MS Access sort of sorts the designation variable by ascending order, and then it sees that okay, now I have all analysts lined up, all manager lined up, all senior analysts and team leads lined up. The next thing it looks up is what is in this aggregate function. Now it says that I want to sum the salary as basis the designation. Now what it literally does is that since we have grouped by designation, so these three rows become the first group. So these four rows become the second group, these three rows become the third one, and this alone becomes the fourth group. So across these individual groups, it is going to sum the salaries. So you can expect across the first group, since it consists of just three rows, it is going to give us an addition of this value, this value, and this value. The same thing holds for manager, but the grouping is only going to hold across the group itself. So it's going to give us the sum of this value, this, and this. So let's see what the results have to say about this. So there you go. So now we have the designation lined up over as always, and it tells us that there is a designation called analyst, and to all my analysts I am paying around $285,000 a year. For manager I'm paying up something of the order of $380, and for senior analyst I'm paying something of the order of 288. For team leads 98,006 only, because it's just one team lead. So this is about using different aggregate function with two different variables in a select clause in a SQL query. Now, like I mentioned, that I have used two different variables in my select clause. What I mean by this is that, as in a previous session, I told that whenever you use the group by statement, every variable that appears in your group by clause needs to appear in your select clause also. So this holds right, because if you notice that I have a specifically written designation over here, and in the aggregate function I am free to use any variable which I want to, but it should make logical sense. So summing the designations doesn't really hold any value, because analyst plus analyst plus analyst is nothing. It does not hold any meaning as such. So I am free to choose sum as a salary into this, and again, if I were to introduce some sort of other variable, say first name, and try to run this query, it won't really run. It tells me, it gives me an error again. So to do certain kind of a thing, I again need to put my first name over with the group by clause, and changing the nature of the query, it would still run. But it's always safe to know that that whenever you're running a group by clause, the variable that is over here, only this variable can appear as a free form variable in the select clause. So this is about using the group by clause in MS Access. But before we end this session, there's just one catch to it. I've been saying that you can use that all the variables which appear in group by needs to appear in the select clause only. But this is a higher criteria, and by that I mean even if I were not to include the designation over here, still the whole query would run because uh, only this variable can appear or may not appear in the select clause, but you cannot have any more variables over in the select clause besides the variables that you have used in designation. But you can use the lesser number of variables like I mentioned in your select clause as always. So just to give you a demonstration, so this would run. So this was about using the group by clause in our MS Access SQL environment. Thank you for watching.